Welcome to the Dr. Tim Jennings Show. I'm Dr. Tim Jennings. Here we seek real answers for real-life problems. And joining me is Susan Collenberg.
Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to be discussing fix for failing families. Before we get into our topic today, we do have a question from one of our viewers. We have an anonymous question. It says, how do you deal with rebellious teens? Do you use force or do you not use force?
This is a great question because I'm sure they're probably taking into some account some of our earlier shows. We talked about the law of liberty, and love only exists in an atmosphere of freedom. Right. And if you use coercive pressure, it destroys love. Right. And so one of the balancing factors there is, though, that love uses restraining power. Okay, so a parent who loves their child will use physical force to stop a toddler from running into the street. Okay, a parent who has a child who's psychotic and trying to harm themselves or suicidal and trying to injure themselves will use physical force to get them to the hospital and get them the care they need. Or a child who's in a delirium with a high fever and is doing something physically harmful, they'll be restrained and put in an ice bath. Okay? Right. So love uses physical force in ways that are medicinal or healing or protective of someone who's out of control. I think the difficult one, those are pretty obvious. People see that, get that, know that. Right. The difficult one is is when it's unruly around the house, not following up with responsibilities, homework, chores, things like that. What do you do? Won't go to church, for instance. Do you force them into the car? Right. Well, in those particular cases, my recommendation is the family or the parents exercise authority over themselves to control the various elements that are privileges for the child, like the TV, the cell phone, the internet, the car, all the things that the child wants to make their life fun and enjoyable are almost all privileges for the mature, not rights of the child. Okay, and so the parent simply has to exercise authority and say, hey, these are privileges, and if you don't want to use the cell phone, if you don't want to have TV, if you don't want the internet, that's fine, but you can't have those until your bed's made or do this, that, and so forth. Rather than using physical coercion, you just hold them accountable and enforce the boundaries you set, and their behavior will conform if they want to get the things that they want in life.
And it not only conforms, but it helps them to mature as well.
Yes, because they have to then exercise authority over themselves.
They have to think about what it is they want to do and not do.
And then they have to fulfill their responsibilities. Yes, it helps them mature.
Okay, so our topic is the fix for failing families. So why are healthy families important?
Well, healthy families are important first because they're the bedrock of society, and they're where children form their sense of self, that form their value sets, form their coping strategies, form their filters on how they understand the world around them, their mental processes. And so when families are dysfunctional, kids grow up with all types of problems. And the studies are very clear. Kids who come from traumatic, violent, disruptive homes have increased rates of mental health problems, psychological problems, physical health problems. They die at least a decade earlier. They have more diabetes, obesity, heart risks when they come from these traumatic homes. So the family is the foundation for establishing health of the individuals, which then establishes health of the society.
Okay. All right, very good. So do you think that families are more healthier now as opposed to, say, a century ago?
Well, the data would suggest no, not overall. That more children are born out of wedlock now than at any time in human history. Spouse abuse rates, child abuse rates are as high as they've ever been. So we have divorce rates that are pretty much as high as they've ever been. So the evidence would suggest that our families are not as healthy as they have been in some parts of history.
Okay, so what's causing the unhealthiness? What's wrong with our families?
So I would think you would say, what are the factors that are contributing in that might be undermining the health of our families? I think one of the big is a shift in philosophical understanding of reality from a God-designed and God-built reality to a godless evolutionary reality where there is no moral responsibility, there's no moral authority. We are just evolving from lower life forms into higher life forms, and the engine that drives adaptation is survival of the fittest, which is about me getting what I want. And so when we move away from a God-centered, which is a love-centered, other-centered, beneficent frame of reference to an evolutionary frame of reference, we move away from compassion, caring, self-sacrifice for the benefit of our families to, hey, I have a right to be happy. I have a right to get mine. And so when my needs aren't being filled, therefore I have a right to leave and go pursue it somewhere else. And so I think the evolutionary philosophy has really driven this mindset shift that causes people to not commit themselves in a healthy way toward working out and difficulties in a marriage. I think that's one factor.
Okay.
I think another factor are economic pressures. The economic pressures that come to bear and that have driven the economic pressures that have driven families to have both parents in the workforce just to make it.
Right.
Okay, there used to be a time where it was understood. Now, some people find this as sexist, okay, but it was understood that one parent would work and make an income sufficient for the whole family. Now that has been changed where it takes two-parent income to really provide for the family.
Right.
And that has driven one of the parents out of the home, which has disrupted the flow and the normal balance of the home environment. And many children are actually being reared by third-party daycares rather than by the families themselves. So family cohesion is breaking down. This is another factor. And I think a third factor is the television. Television coming in and electronic media, where this breaks down the fabric of social interaction and alters actually brain development. Theatrical television alters brain development, and so kids grow up with more moodiness and irritability and less problem-solving skills and less social interaction. So I think three big factors: evolutionary worldview, economic pressures with two parents working outside the home, and then television, theatrical entertainment, electronic media coming in and breaking down the social fabric of the family.
And it's kind of like they all feed into each other.
Yeah.
So that, a parent's tired, so what do they want to do? They want to put a screen in front of their child instead of interact as a family.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And so, if they don't have an outside babysitter, then the iPad or the TV becomes the babysitter, and it again breaks down social interaction.
Right, and then that goes into the society. So you have a lot of information on brain science and how that interacts with our view on God. Do you want to talk about that and
how that impacts
our
families?
Yes.
So. One of the design laws that I talk about, and I've talked about in several of the shows, is called modeling in psychiatry. It's a law of worship. We actually become changed by what we admire, we esteem, we look up to, we value, we worship. The God we worship, we will become like. Neurobiologically, we will change. Psychologically, we will change. And so if you worship a God who is an authoritarian dictator, then we become authoritarian in our practices, and we would bring those practices into our families. And the data shows that religiosity corresponds with child abuse. The more religiosity we have, the higher the rates of child abuse. However, spirituality, which is a development of one's spiritual attributes of kindness, compassion, other-centeredness, is inversely proportional. So the more spiritual a person, the less likely they are to abuse their kids, but the more religious they are, the more likely they are to abuse their kids. Wow. Because religiosity is a structured system of imposed rules which require imposed enforcement and authoritarian rule, and that leads to abuse. Whereas when we worship a being who is benevolent and kind and compassionate, we become more benevolent, kind, and compassionate. We don't seek to abuse. We seek to enlighten. We seek to develop. We seek to enrich.
Right. Okay. So what kind of actions can we take to move our families to be more healthy?
So healthy relationships require healthy people,
Right.
and healthy families require healthy parents.
Okay.
If the parents are not healthy, the
Right.
family is not healthy, period.
Right.
And that's just how it works.
Right.
Okay, so the first step that needs to be taken to have either healthy relationships or healthy families is the adults have to look at themselves first.
Okay.
If you have an unhealthy marriage, the first place to look is in the mirror.
Okay.
Okay, and the question is, what am I doing that's contributing to the problems in this marriage, and what changes can I make in myself that can bring healing to this marriage? I can tell you almost nobody asks these questions.
Right.
It's almost always what they're doing. And if you would stop doing this, and if you would stop doing that, if you would do this other thing, then, so forth and so on.
Right.
Okay? And it's really trying to make and force the other person to change to conform to what you want, rather than stepping back and saying, hey, what am I doing that's contributing to the problems? And how can I contribute to the solution?
Right.
And that's where it has to start. Now, once you have done that, it's not improper to have a mature dialogue about things the other person might be doing that's unhealthy. And some things are objectively healthy, and it's proper to have those discussions about that. But how you have a mature discussion about that would be, hey, sweetheart, you've been spending all our money on gambling and buying lottery tickets, and we haven't had money to pay our bills, and we don't have food in the pantry because you spent the last 3 paychecks on that. That's not working for me. We've got to get you into some type of a treatment, a Gambling Anonymous or something, and we need to put some protocols in place where you don't have access to the money because you don't have self-control, blah, 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 blah. There's a place that you have to have that conversation.
Right.
Okay? And here's how you handle it. If the person refuses, the person says, hey, you're just picking on me, you're just critical, you just don't understand, and they won't cooperate and collude, you don't then try to, well, I'll do it. I'll go change the bank account. I'll make sure the checks come to me. I'll monitor them. I will take over and I will try to buck them up and get them to be the man that they or the woman that they need to be. No. No, you can't do that. What you have, the healthy approach is, here's what needs to change. Here's my real life concerns. I'm willing to work with you as your partner, to cheer you on, to encourage you, to assist and walk beside you. But you have to make the changes in you. I can't make those changes. And if they don't, then that's evidence that they're no longer qualified to be in the marriage, and you move out.
Okay.
You end the relationship.
Right. So those are the steps to have the healthy communication as well with a partner who may be going off the end.
So you have to have healthy communication,
Right.
and I think we need to kind of go through some communication steps.
Okay.
But yes, one of the things that we just spoke about is you have to have the healthy boundaries to understand what's yours and what's not yours.
To begin with.
You have to know what's yours and not yours.
Right.
Okay. I'm not responsible for the decisions the other person makes. I'm not responsible for the attitude the other person has. I'm not responsible for their feelings towards me. I am responsible for being the healthiest person in governance of me that I can be, to make the wisest decisions and to communicate in the most effective way. And I need to be the healthiest person I can be, regardless of what happens in the relationship. Okay. If our relationship reconciles, I need to be healthy. Right. If our relationship divorces and we go separate ways, I need to be the healthiest person. Many people stumble because they make their own decisions over self and their own well-being dependent on what the other person does, and they focus their decisions on trying to save the relationship rather than on trying to be healthy in governance of themselves and doing what's actually reasonable.
And then everybody stays unhealthy.
Right, and they continue these spins and these cycles of dysfunction.
Right. So if you would like to get some more information on Fix for Families, come back with us after the break and we'll talk about some more things to help communication.
And if you have some questions that you want to ask me, send those questions. Go to our website, timjenningsmd.com, and ask those questions, and we will try to get those in on the show. And we have a lot of other free resources on our website, so be sure to visit our website and check out what's going on there.
Could It Be This Simple changed my life. What an amazing and solid yet fulfilling and liberating message Dr. Jennings provides. I loved it.
It is liberating. It frees your mind from all your mental turmoil and teaches you what is really going on.
This book is amazing and makes so much sense. It shows God as a God of love rather than an arbitrary, exacting God.
I am so grateful that a friend suggested I read Could It Be This Simple? It has helped me fine-tune my thinking.
This book not only helps the mind to heal, but helps to liberate the emotions by bringing them into balance. You will be captivated with the case studies liberally sprinkled throughout this small, easy-to-read book. I dare you to read it.
Get your copy of Could It Be This Simple? A Biblical Model for Healing the Mind at Amazon.com or wherever books are sold.
Hello, I'm Dr. Tim Jennings with your Mental Health Minutes. Are you pregnant or thinking of becoming pregnant? Do you want to ensure your child will have the healthiest brain possible? Then avoid all alcohol, because as little as 1 glass of wine per week alters brain development and is associated with behavior and emotion problems. Avoid smoking. Children born to mothers who smoked had higher rates of learning and behavior problems and psychotic disorders. Take omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3s promote healthy brains and higher IQ. And watch out for depression. Untreated depression is associated with delayed fetal growth and altered brain development. However, antidepressants can increase miscarriage rates, contribute to smaller fetal heads, and slow growth in the newborn. If depressed, consider transcranial magnetic stimulation, the only FDA-cleared, drug-free treatment for depression with no risk to the fetus. To be smart requires a healthy brain, so be smart, do right, and make your child bright.
To learn more about mental health, visit comeandreason.com.
Welcome back. Dr. Jennings, you emphasize that healthy relationships require healthy communication.
Yes.
So how do we get to that? How can families or loved ones get to a healthy communication.
So again, it starts with self.
Yes.
Okay, and so with yourself, you want to create an atmosphere where it's safe to communicate.
Okay.
And so, and it's really amazing how many people don't create this atmosphere. They actually create an atmosphere where they send a message to the family members, don't bring me information or ideas or perspectives or feedback that I don't want to hear. And they send that message by being negative, by being hostile, by being critical, by being argumentative. And so they condition people not to communicate. But what you want to do is just the opposite. And so how you do that is you say, hey, I want to create an atmosphere. So no matter what my partner brings to me, my first response is, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, and I have them think about it. I say, think about this. Your child's mad at you. They are angry, and there's something that you're just so upset about. Would you want them to come talk to you about it or not?
Absolutely.
Why would you want them to come talk to you about it? Why? There's a reason. Why?
Because you care for their well-being.
And that's
and you
it.
want them to be healthy, and you're concerned, and you want to work out the problem with them.
There you go. You want to work out the problem. You can't work out the problem until they come and talk to you.
Right.
And so, how about with your spouse? Your spouse is mad. They're angry. They're upset. Do you want them to talk to you or not?
Absolutely.
Well, you say yes, but a lot of people, no, they don't. They say, they're mad, let them deal with it. No, but in reality, you do want them to talk to you.
Yes.
And so how do you get them to talk to you? By when they come to you, they're angry, they're hurt, and they say something, do you argue back? Or is the first thing you say is, thank you. Thank you for coming to me and telling me this. I can tell this is very upsetting to you. And when you say that, thank you, that's the first thing you say every time, thank you, or I'm glad you came, or, I really appreciate you coming to talk to me about it. When you do that, you create an atmosphere to your spouse that they feel safe. They can come to you with everything. So it opens the doors of communication in your relationship. If you respond instead with defensiveness, I can't believe you think that of me. Are you really serious about that? Where did you hear that from me? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Okay?
Yeah.
If you respond with these types of responses, instead you condition them, well, it's not safe to go. They're not going to listen. And so people avoid communicating because they want to avoid the conflict.
Right.
So step one is to create that atmosphere by really being genuinely appreciative. Even if it's news that's completely wrong, even if it's an accusation, even if it's feedback that's painful, you know what? That was painful to hear, but I'm really glad you came to me to talk to me about it.
Okay.
Okay, that's the step one. And then after that, first seek to understand before seeking to be understood.
Okay.
Seek to understand before seeking to be understood. So they come to you and say, you know what? I can tell you're really upset. Thank you. First off, thank you for coming to me and talking to me about this. But I'm not sure I completely understand why you're feeling this way and what this is coming from. Can you help me understand what this is all about? I really want to understand it, and I'm not really tracking you right now.
Okay.
So rather than seeking to be understood, what? Are you kidding me? No, I was here at that time. I was there at this time. I didn't say that. I didn't. In other words, immediately going into explanation mode and defense mode.
Right. Right.
No, you don't do that. You actually let them really, and most of the time, if you give time for the person to explain themselves, where you really understand them, then you actually have a reason. Oh, no wonder you're upset. And then so it's create the atmosphere of thanks.
Yes.
Okay, seek to understand before seeking to be understood, and then validate, identify with. Doesn't mean agree with.
Okay.
Okay, it's different. Validate means, hey, no wonder you're upset. I'd be upset too if I thought that's what was going on.
Okay.
Okay?
So basically saying, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And this is what you said.
And validate that. Yeah, and repeat back.
Yeah.
Because here's what I hear you saying. I hear you saying this. Well, no wonder you're upset. You have every right to be upset if that's what's actually going on. Or I'd be upset too if that's what's going on. If it's actually, and then after that, after you have appreciated them for coming to you, after you've sought to understand, and after you have identified with and validated that their concerns are
what their concerns are,
and that's reasonable, then you either correct if there is mistakes and errors, and the person is much more likely to hear you now.
Right.
Okay? So, but you know what? No wonder you're upset. I'd be upset too. But can I share something with you? And they're going to go, sure. You know, that what you thought happened the other day, well, that's not exactly how it happened. What actually happened was this. Really? I thought it was the other way around.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Well, so they're open to hear their correction and or correct and redirect, and or there will be times when they come to you and it's just absolutely accurate and you blew it. Okay?
Then what?
And then that's the end, or then you own it.
Right.
You're right. I blew that. I came up short. I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? And it's important to say, go beyond say, I'm sorry. I apologize. That's not sufficient, and not in a relationship, especially an intimate relationship. What needs to be said, if you've actually come up short, if you've done wrong, if you let them down, you need to say, will you forgive me?
Okay.
You need to say that. I'm really sorry. You're right. That was wrong of me to speak to you that way. You did not deserve. I was angry. I was irritable. I spoke harshly. I spoke rashly. You're right. You didn't. Will you forgive me?
So why is it important to say, will you forgive me?
Because-
What is that?
Yeah, it's important to say, will you forgive me? Because then the other person has to make a choice to let it go or to hold on to it. If you simply say, I'm sorry,
Right.
they haven't chosen to let go.
Okay, so that's part of the healthy communication.
They haven't right. If you say, I apologize, well, I'm glad you apologize, but that still's on the checklist.
Right.
They haven't let go. Will you forgive me? Yes, I forgive. Think about it. Think about inside you emotionally when you go, yes, I forgive you. Something emotionally just changed. You just let go of something.
Right.
But if you brought it to their attention, they say, I'm sorry, but you haven't forgiven. You see, it's not healed yet.
It's still there.
It's still
Right,
there.
it's
Exactly.
still there.
A little
Still
thorn
something
remains.
between you.
So the communication is create that atmosphere of thankfulness, seek to understand before seeking to be understood, identify, validate, appreciate, and affirm, and then correct if it needs correction, or acknowledge and own it and ask forgiveness.
Right. Okay.
Okay?
Great. What about being truthful with someone, even if it may hurt another person's feelings?
Yeah. So truth in love is genuine. Truth in love
Yes.
is generally always right if the truth is appropriate for that person.
Okay. Explain that.
Well, kids don't need all the truth about things. There's a lot of truths that may be true that kids don't need. They're not mature enough. They can't handle it. That's not appropriate for them.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So the point is but in the context of relationships where I'm getting to is the truth that many people avoid. It's like, how does my hair look?
Right. How does this dress look? Or
Right.
pant?
These
You're
types of things, and I see all the times people lie. I don't do that. My wife says, how's this dress look? And if I don't like it, I'll go, it's not my favorite. I don't think it looks the best on you.
Right.
How does my hair look? Well, honestly, I liked it better the other way.
Right.
I said, hey, cook dinner. What do you think? It's amazing. If it's amazing,
Right.
it's okay. I'm not eating this.
You've gone
Okay.
to that length.
Well, whatever, you know, it's like, I'm not going to eat this, okay? And you need to be truthful, and here's why. If you actually don't like it, and that's your real heart,
Right.
but your words say you like it, your nonverbal will still communicate dislike.
Right.
The person will feel it, and they will know they're being lied to.
Right.
You will be disingenuine. You're not being genuine. You're not being real. You're being fake.
Yes.
Okay?
Right.
This undermines trust in the relationship. And if you say, how do you like this dress? It's beautiful. How do you like this dress? It's beautiful. How do you like this dress? It's beautiful. Everything's beautiful.
Right.
Then when something's really beautiful, it's no different than all the others.
Right.
Okay? If you're honest and truthful and, no, I don't really like that, then when you actually tell them, you look amazing. Oh, I love that hairdo. This really tastes good.
Right.
It means something. Your word means something because they know you're honest and truthful. But if you lie about all this because I don't want to hurt their feelings, I don't want to upset them.
Right.
Now, some people actually solicit the deception. Solicit it.
Okay.
What do you mean
by that?
They solicit it by punishing you for being honest.
Okay.
Okay? How do you like this dress? That's not my favorite. And then they pout, and then they stomp, they criticize, they whine, they cry, they go into hysteria, and there's this whole drama, and this whole breakdown, and this whole meltdown, and it's like, oh my gosh, I never want to go through that again. Next time I'll just tell her I like it.
Right.
And people even say, you know she's that way, just tell her what she wants to hear.
Right.
Okay? She's conditioning, or he's conditioning the
whole
world
unit.
around you
Right.
in order to everybody give them the feedback they want. Okay? I don't play that game.
Okay.
That's not healthy.
Right.
Absolutely. And if they want to have a meltdown, I actually say, well, if you need to cry about it, that's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't change my liking or liking of disliking of the dress.
Right.
But if that's the only way you know how to cope, then go for it. That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh, and with the meal, if you say you like it and you really don't, you're going to get it again.
That's exactly right. Thank you for bringing that up. And I never want it again.
Right.
So I don't.
Giving it to you, if she,
Yes.
especially if she knows you're lying.
How
right?
many sitcoms have you seen, well, like the old I Love Lucy show or some of those things, where they did this? They would lie, and then they're faced with having to deal with it over again.
Over and over again.
Yes.
So how does that relate with parents and the responsibility with children and telling the truth with children?
So this is
There's
another.
a lot going on.
No,
Yeah.
so honesty with kids.
Yeah.
Parents are dishonest with kids in a lot of ways, and our society's gotten dishonest with kids.
Yes.
And so it's healthy to communicate honestly in love with kids. But I see this like at churches. A kid will get up to do a special music or maybe a Bible reading, and they really do a very, very poor performance.
Right.
And they're old enough to know themselves. They're not the 6-year-old, the 3-year-old, okay?
Right.
They're the 12-year-old, the 13-year-old, and they have some sense of what a normal reading looks like, and the fact they couldn't pronounce the word and they stumbled and they got it wrong, or they hit the wrong notes. And then when they walk off stage, the adults say, "Good job, well done." Okay, this is deception. This is a
Right.
lie.
Right.
Okay, and the kids know it. And it undermines trust and undermines confidence. And in society, in schools, we're doing this when everybody gets a participation award, and we're telling them that these types of distortions. And what we're doing is we're mixing performance with value as a person. Everybody has equal value as a person, but not everyone is equal in ability.
Right.
Okay.
And that's okay.
And it's okay not to have equal
Right.
ability. I'm not a great musician. I'm not a great artist.
Right.
It's okay, and I need to know that. If I was brought up under this delusion because everybody's equal in all the things they do, and somebody tried to convince me that I'm this great musician or great artist because I was always taught when I'm really not,
Right.
then I may not have been a doctor. I might have gone into some, and I'm failing in this entire career because I'm putting energy into something I'm really not good at. We need to be honest with abilities, but value them as people in equal ways.
Okay, so then what you're saying is that it's very important to be honest with our kids.
Yes, even if they get their feelings hurt. Honesty. Kids need to learn that in this life, not everything goes the way they want. There are disappointments in this life.
running
And we
out of
got to,
time.
give them a little
And
highlight for our next show.
That's right. And our next show, next week, if you join us, is going to be on guilt resolution. This is a big deal. This is a big deal where people are trying to figure out how to move on with things.
So we'll see you next time.
Yes, thank you for joining us.